Hey art nerds, I have selected another batch of zines to share with my Nashville Making Comics class. So if you're interested in zines, zine collecting, and mini comics, keep watching while I flip through these zines. So I have a huge zine and mini comic collection. I've been collecting zines and minis since about 2010, and I buy, I would say on average, 10 plus every show I go to, and I usually do about anywhere from 5 to 10 shows a year, so that kind of gives you guys an idea of just how large my zine collection is. Most of the ones that I have selected here are from while I was at SCAD, so from the SCAD mini comic show and the prior or the following year's show, and from Mocha Fest, but there may be a few from subscription services like Cowboy House. So this is Hornboy. I purchased it from my friend Emily Cluin, who works digitally, and Emily at the time had this really neat sort of vector-ish full color style, so it's very, very clean. This is a mini comic. It has been printed on cardstock, stapled on the interior. And a zine at this size would either have to be printed by someone else, so you'd send it out for printing, or you would have to trim it by hand. Emily signed it, and then you can find Emily's, I think most of this is old contact info, but it should give you a good start for finding more of Emily Clun's work. The 20-something Guides to Being a Successful, Socially Awkward, and I guess it says slob, but I'm not super sure. Food and dining. I'm pretty sure I purchased this at Mocha Fest. This was hand sketched while I was there. So, as I said in my other zine flip throughs, zines can be a combination of text, illustration, and text. And the 20-something's Guide to Being a Successful Socially Awkward Slob is an excellent example of that, because you have illustrations, you have sequential art, so comic art, and then you have a lot of text. So if you are not confident in your art, or you feel that you're slow at drawing, this can be a great way to make a really engaging little zine without, wrecking your hand. And this one is, I think it is 8 pages total, and you can tell it's been hand trimmed by the top. We also have Fur, Hide, and Bone. This was definitely purchased at a Mocha Fest. I want to say 2010. I may have even traded a set of paper dolls for it. So only the cover is full color, and it is printed on a craft-esque paper. You can tell it's toner printed because there is a slight sheen to the printing. This, as in the 20-something's Guide to Being a Successful Socially Awkward Slob, you can tell they are both hand lettered. If you have legible handwriting, hand lettering your stuff adds a sort of personalized feel to it. My hand lettering is awful. My handwriting looks like it's easy to read, and it's not. So for me, that's not really an option. But as you can see, there's beautiful illustrations inside, as well as notes on certain animals. And this was made by Carolyn Smith, and you can find her work through, and Katie Inamorato and Lisa Pauley. Wow, lots of different, okay, that's cool. Lots of different artists contributed. Emily Harris, I want to say. And then there's some blank pages in the back. And you can get more of their zines through Apis Serrano. And this is Our Sweet Unicorn by Lucy Kagan. And I really love Lucy's art. It's soft, it's sweet watercolor, very much like Chica Umino's work. And this is just a cute little hand bound. You can see it has like It's not like Japanese soft stab binding, but it's like a single signature of binding with cute baker's twine, and it was hand assembled. And you should be able to find more of Lucy's work at cottonbook.tumblr.com. And then this is a mini by a kid. It's book 1 in series 1. And I love when kids draw comics, when kids draw minis. There's so much life and vibrancy to them. And this is by Palmer Fisher. I feel like kids in general just kind of naturally grasp the potential for comics. In fact, I think a lot of us got our start as when we were, kid artists. We would combine text with visuals to kind of convey a story. That's comics. So I really enjoy teaching and working with kids in making comics classes because they take to it very naturally. And this is Apuka and the Pet Store, written by John Hickey, illustrations by Mike Roll. So this is sort of like a children's picture book, but it's like a scary kids picture book, but not scary, sort of like a scary godmother kind of thing, where it's both cute and scary. And I think I may have picked this one up at ALAAC 2015. Then we have The Plot by Neil Bordeaux. And I think I got this at A2CAF, but it might have been a Mocha Fest. I know Neil has tabled at A2CAF in the past. This is a nice thick mini. You get lots of comic. The art is really easy to read. It's cartoony, but there is really nice stuff going on in the backgrounds. There's a nice attention to detail. So it makes it easy to read. You're not struggling to figure out what things are. And you can see this was hand sewn. That must have taken a lot of effort when you think about how many copies. And then the front looks like it was screen printed. So a lot of effort went into this mini. Then we have Unipuppy by Courtney Hawn, and this was definitely picked up at A2CAF. And A2CAF is a library comic convention aimed at kids and teens and just a general love of fun, engaging comics. So the artists who tend to table there tend to either be like kidlit artists or people who are very young at heart. And I've tabled at A2CAF a few times, and it's always a pleasure. It's well run. They're very nice there. As you guys can see, Courtney has a really fun, easy to read, cartoony style. Very bouncy and playful. The character designs are very engaging. And you can find, I'm pretty sure Courtney has moved from CourtneyArtStuffs.blogspot.com, but Courtney probably has links to more of her work if you start out there. Then we have Sucker Street. This looks like an Ellis. Nope, Suzanne Bauman. Not who I guessed. So we have Sucker Street. This is a larger mini. This is almost like a children's picture book or a little golden book size. And it was published by Fridge Magnet Concoctions. And I love the sort of contrasting paper. We have yellow on the inside and then blue on the exterior. And Suzanne keeps the characters very distinct from the background by applying a tone to the background, like an overall tone, which also helps convey the tone of the story, the tone of the setting. But the characters don't have that tone applied to them. So the background has a slightly different treatment. And a mini like this is great if you've got like a 30-page comic story. It's not quite big enough for perfect bound. This is a perfect format for that. And this is chapter 1 of Sucker Street. Put this aside for a moment. I want to talk about that in a little more detail. That has a note on it because this is Sketch Vomit by Heidi Black. And Heidi and I used to exchange minis and zines all the time. We went to grad school together. You hear me talk about Heidi pretty often. And this is a sketchbook, what we would call when I was at SCAD an ashcan. Now, I've had people get on my case since, like, oh, don't refer to your work as an ashcan. Y'all, it's literally called an ashcan because it's just a bunch of sketches thrown into a book without a whole lot of production. Like, we're not insulting our own work. It's a common term. Anyway, this is Heidi's Sketch Vomit. And I think I went through and made notes on all the things I liked that I wanted to steal for my own style. So that's also just part of being an artist. And this is probably a much older, I would say 2010. She probably made this for Heroes Con. So it's mostly inked, although there are some pencil and process sketches. And I think I've discussed sketchbooks in my other Zine Flip video, but sketchbooks can be a really great way to compile a year's worth of drawings. Not like an Inktober where they're all ink drawings or maybe theme drawings, but just kind of whatever art you did that year that you like enough to want to share. A sketchbook or an ashcan can be a great way to do that. Now, Heidi had this printed at Office Max, because I think I was there, and on pearl paper for the cover, and the pearl paper is just gorgeous with the colors. Like, it really kind of scintillates, and it's a way to make your very inexpensive print comics feel like they're a much higher end product without costing you a whole lot more. Now, this Shenanigans by Ali Ram Koltoff is an example of what you would get if you sent your mini out for someone to professionally print. So it's a little bit smaller than a trade size comic or a floppy. It's a lot thicker. It's probably like 100% less ads than a trade floppy. And this is a side story to Ali's webcomic Churalt, and you guys should go check out Churalt. And this was printed in 2012, so I think I must have purchased this at TCAF. And you can see that, okay, so this was originally designed for web. You can see that there's buffers. This is designed to help scale the page to a print format provided by a printer without changing your page ratio. There's all sorts of ways you can kind of alter your webcomic pages to suit print. For Kara, I did that by putting it on a watercolor paper background, and then I had some traditional media accents that I created that I put on the sides of the page. So there's all kinds of ways you can kind of buffer your webcomic page to suit print comic needs. I see a lot of people kind of like warning that you should think about print, and you should. I'm not arguing that you shouldn't, but it's not the end of the world. You don't have to redo your comic if your ratio for web is not your ratio for print. Now, the problem with printing things with a printer is that it can get expensive. You do have to charge more because you have to order in larger numbers in order to hit, bulk rates. It's still cheaper than printing through Office Max, Office Depot, but Ali probably purchased 50 to 100 of these or more in order to get the right rate. Whereas if you're printing at home, if you're printing through Office Max or Office Depot, you can print as few as 5. You can just print 1 if you want. However, the print quality is really, really nice. The trim is nice. The colors are nice. It's definitely something worth considering. I see so many artists go straight to their first Kickstarter. They've never done a mini. They've never done anything home printed. They just go straight to Kickstarter. And as someone who followed a different path, I personally have some concerns for that. I personally would recommend that you guys do something like this, or do something like this, or do something like this, or do something like this. Handmade, low print runs, small, go sell them at cons, go build up an audience, build up word of mouth before you have your Kickstarter. Start developing that audience. Get some practice dealing with print, dealing with the specifications of print, the requirements of print before you have your first Kickstarter. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of money, and it's going to give you a better idea of how to deal with book buying customers in a way that works for you and works for them. Now, here we have a beautiful little home printed comic by Marlena Kong Lao, and I do apologize if I am mispronouncing your name, sorry. My pronunciation for everything is abysmal. And what's neat about this is it is a traditional media watercolor comic, so you know I'm going to love it. And it's sized quite nicely to the page. It's not particularly long. It's honestly only 4 sheets of paper. So no, it's 2 sheets of paper. So it is like 4 pages, whatever, but it ends up being 7 because she doesn't have anything printed really on the back. But this is really kind of, in terms of length, this is what I want to see my students produce. It's a little bit of work, it's a little bit of investment, but it's not too much. And it's just the right size for an exchange. If they want to do more, that's fantastic. But this, I think, is a very achievable size for people who are doing their first comic. And it doesn't cost much to print because you're only really printing front and back 2 sheets of paper. And you can find more of Marlena's stuff here. Now this I'm excited about. I think Joseph found this at Mocha Fest and it's just gorgeous. It's gorgeous in a lot of ways. The content is gorgeous. The execution is gorgeous. It's Counting Turtles Field Notes from Weekawa. And I think he purchased this because when I was in undergrad, I did my, for my environmental science minor, you had to do a project, and I did a field project where I went out and I counted Rio Grande cichlids, which are an invasive species in Louisiana. And I went out and I did sketches while I was out there, and then I gave the whole thing to my supervising instructor. So this is very reminiscent of that. And Joseph used to go out with me to count Rio Grande cichlids. So I know when he saw this, he thought of that. And not only that, it's just beautiful. Like, it's screen printed on mulberry paper. The paper has this kind of camo look. It just goes very nicely with the beautifully drawn turtle. I mean, when I talk about minis can be like beautiful little gems, this is definitely a beautiful little gem. And then I'm going to be careful. The binding is really nice. Like, she's covered the staples, and I want to be careful because it's older and the glue might crack. It's watercolor and it's been trimmed so that you see the corners have been docked. Like, it's really just a lot of care and a lot of love, and the watercolors are beautiful. So, I mean, when I do stuff for How to Be a Con Artist, when I do stuff here, when I review cons, I'm always pushing you guys, go out and buy from the other artists. Don't just sit behind your table. Go out and talk to other people, because things like this and like this and like this and like this and like this, all of these are waiting for you if you just get up and you talk to other people. You are not the best artist in the alley. You're not the only artist in the alley. Everyone here has a dream and a goal, and you can discover so many beautiful, inspiring things if you just leave your table and you go out and you talk to other people. That's my goal too when I'm teaching, is to encourage people to get up and talk to other artists. Then we have a comic I purchased online from Carrie Peach, and this is kind of before the Adventure Zone, or is it Critical Role? I'm sorry, I don't follow either of those. She's doing a comic for one of them, and I apologize for not knowing which off the top of my head. But this was kind of before those days. And minis used to be, I cannot say that I feel that minis have still been valuable for me, but that doesn't, I live in Nashville, like there's no editors out here. These used to be a really good way to show that you can handle making a comic, that you can handle producing a comic, lettering and editing and finessing it into something beautiful, and that you can do color work and you can do black and white work. It used to be a really good way to show editors that you were ready. And I think if you live in a place where editors come to the shows, or if you're attending shows where editors are going to go, like SBX or TCAF, it's still a great way. Now, my other big fight is get editors to go to all the other shows, or at least some of the other shows, because shows like TCAF and SBX fill up fast, and they're not indicative of all the talent that is out there, just some of the talent that is out there. But, you gotta pick your battles. Anyway, Keepsakes is beautiful. It is another example of someone professionally printing your comic, like RA Direct would do that. Not that I necessarily recommend RA Direct. And if you're interested in sort of small press mini comic publishers, I can look into that. Although I think Joseph has interviewed a few of them here on this channel. So this is digital. It's designed to look like ink wash, which is a very handy way of doing that because ink wash can be a pain in the booty, and doing it digitally saves you a lot of stress. It's printed on heavier paper, not quite cover or cardstock. And printing in black and white like this with a full color cover is actually very affordable. That's another thing. A lot of people want their first comic to be full color. I get it. I do a watercolor comic. Black and white is so much cheaper. And when you're selling individual somethings at a con, it is nice to have a full color something that you love. It could be your sketchbook, it could be an art book, it could be your comic. It's also nice to have more affordable black and white stuff that people who are not yet invested in your work can purchase. And then finally, well, not yet finally, we have one more, but almost finally, we have a program guide from A2CAF. And what year is this? I'm not sure. But what's cool about this is that people were able to submit their comics, and you have art from Raina Telgemeier on the cover, and then art from Cece Bell on the back cover, and then you've got art from Ben Hatke in here, and you also have art from, oh, that's gorgeous. You have art from students who were taking classes in Ann Arbor, comic students. So you have a really cool mix of art by professional comic artists and then by student, not necessarily this one, I'm just gesturing, student comic artists. And I wish more comic cons would do things like this. It could be a really good way to just kind of generate a love of comics and showcase what people in your area are doing and what they're making, raise a love and an awareness for the comic craft. So this program guide is really cool. It's a really cool, well, it's not really a program guide. It's really just like a showcase of the cool comics inside, which is awesome. And then finally, we have a subscription comic. This is from Cowboy House, which is no longer doing subscription comics. And it was actually a subscription that Joseph was subscribed to, where once a month they would send a comics bundle. And I showed you guys their really cool, like, it was like an amusement park bundle in my last zine video. This one is like a little real life package. So it has themed comics inside, like buying a car. Oh, I forgot how many amazing, although I think Joseph just shoves his like mini comics in here now. So I gotta think about this and go through it. Cause I think not all of these are Cowboy House comics, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, like there's all these amazing tiny mini comics. Actually, they may all really be Cowboy House comics. So you can make mini comics, which, you know, if I say Little Gem or Little Jewel so many times, well, you guys just know that I love comics and I think comics are awesome and I love the variety of formats and I love sharing them with you guys. And the thing about these teeny tiny comics is these have to be, you either send them out to someone else to print or you have to cut them yourself. So yes, you can get more comics out of a sheet of paper, but you're spending more time. How is this? It's a single staple. And I'll actually, and I'm sure the original was drawn tiny, maybe not this tiny. This is so small. But it works. It works really well at this teeny tiny format. And then this one has a teeny tiny cardstock cover. I may not even be able to flip through it. As someone who loves miniatures, I really dig these mini comics. so many of them in this box. I do think, like, as I'm flipping through and I'm noticing that the art is very similar. Either he picked up more of these from Pretty Jeff, or these are what came in the real life monthly box. I mean, I tried to encourage him to review the Cowboy House subscription as he was getting it, because it's really cool and I wanted more people to know about it. And I rag on subscription boxes for other things like art supplies pretty often. I wanted you guys to know that, like, I don't hate every single one. Some are really amazing, but he wouldn't do it. He's too busy. So I guess I should have done it at the time. And when it comes to comic stuff, I am never going to show you stuff I don't like. And I'm never going to like negatively critique other comic artists on this channel, because I want to showcase things I love, and I critique art supplies that way because I think companies can afford to step it up, whereas I know most artists are just doing the best that they can. So if I ever review other artists' stuff, it's because I love it and I want you guys to know about it. And that's kind of why I'm showing you these zines. I want to show the diversity in mini comics. I want to show the diversity in zines. I want to show all sorts of different art styles. I want to show that zines and comics can be for kids. They can be for adults. They can be for men. They can be for women. They can cover all sorts of, they can be for non-binary people. They can cover all sorts of issues. They can make you laugh. They can inform you of something. Oh my gosh, this is so tiny. I mean, it's a medium, right? Like, it's not a genre, it's a medium. It can cover all kinds of things. I love the cover on this. Although, this is a little, given the format, it's a little hard to flip through. Like, to just casually flip. You gotta, like, deliberately read this tiny baby comic. And I think, like, the whole indie comic, indie zine, the idea of it's super refreshing. Like, you're doing it because you love it, and hopefully you can break even on it. I do wish, you know, it was more popular so that people made more money so that they could pay their rent and stuff. Like, I wish it was more, I wish there was a better career path for it. But I love that it's an opportunity for people to make the things they want to see in the world, to talk about issues they care about, to create things that mean something to other people. I mean, comics can be anything. You can make horrible stuff that hurts people, like the Jack Chick books, or you can make really fun, itty bitty, tiny color comics that make people laugh. Or you can make really cool comics about, like, LGBTQIA issues that inform people. I mean, it can be all kinds of things. And you can fight evil and ugly by producing good and kind. So this is what I am adding to my Making Comics zine library. So I want to thank you guys so much for flipping through these with me. If you enjoy these zine flip throughs, let me know. I'll do more of them. I have a huge collection of zines. I would love to share them with people. Love to share them with you guys and get you guys excited about zines and mini comics too. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys again really soon. Bye guys.